How did you begin to originate the storytelling aspect on social media?
I think that it's the attitude of service. Why do you have that story? And everything that we've come through in our lives is all for the glory of God, like everything. And so how do we reach that glory? Where is that next step when we're in the middle of this? And it's really through service to the community. And you never know what people are going through. There's 8 billion people in the planet. Like the chances of somebody who is feeling the same thing that you are or gone through something very similar are just, it's astronomical chances. Like somebody is out there that you are going to help. I was very fortunate to be a part of a church that had a group I'm going to get choked up, of older women who took time out of their lives to pray with me, no matter what time of day it was. Sorry. There was one time I called and it was 2 a.m. and she said, "No, I'm here for you." And she acted like it was nothing and she just prayed with me.
Today, I get to interview my friend Hunter Ditch, and she's a complete rock star. She's a founding member of the IHP. She's a producer. She lives in Hollywood, a best-selling Christian sci-fi and horror author. In this conversation, Hunter challenges us. So sit back, kick back, and relax, because this is a School of Influence. All right, welcome, Hunter. Thank you so much for being on the show. I'm so excited for today's conversation.
Thanks for having me. I'm
Yeah,
happy to be here.
yeah, for sure. So I want to start off right away, just diving right into about social media and about stories. So why do you feel like so many Christians want to grow on social media, but they hesitate to share their story? Like they feel led to share it, but maybe they don't know how, or they're afraid to. Why do you think that is? Well, pardon the interruption, but let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like your story was meant to impact thousands or millions of lives, but you literally just didn't know where to start? Did you know that there is over 2.9 billion people watching social media every single day? That's literally the biggest stage in the entire world. And yet most people are completely invisible on it. Why? Because they don't know how to tell their story in a way that actually connects to other people. And that, my friends, is exactly why I created Stories to Stages. We help you craft your entire story, professionally edit your video, and then we publish it across all major platforms. Plus, I'm going to give you access to my entire storytelling bootcamp. This is over $25,000 worth of value, but right now you can get the entire thing for just $7. $7. Because this isn't just a course, this is a launching pad. We've helped people with no audience, no experience, finally share their story with confidence and to get real reach. Because your story told in the right way involves and moves people. So go to stories2stages.com and grab your $7 spot with the code of podcast1. Your story was not meant to stay silent. So let's get seen, let's get heard, let's get paid, and let's set people free. So go to stories2stages.com, grab your $7 spot, and use the code podcast1 and get yours today. Now, back to the show.
I think that it's probably like a twofold kind of answer. One is that they have the fear of rejection from their audience, or feeling like their story isn't enough, or that it's important. And to that, I say that we're all children of the Lord. Our story and everything that we've gone through is very important. And it's how we reach our audience is by that authenticity in telling our story. And then two, I think if they've tried or attempted to and they didn't come at it with high quality content, that the algorithm probably tanked them, and then they felt that rejection as well. And like maybe they're not cut out for this, but really it's a very simple fix.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I'm excited to get to the algorithm part here towards the end, but I'm really excited to talk about the story aspect and the importance of telling a story. And I hear a lot, Hunter, of I have a story to tell, but I don't know what to share on social media. Maybe it's fear, maybe it's just not knowing how to share a story. How did you begin to originate the storytelling aspect on social media?
I think that it's the attitude of service. Why do you have that story? And everything that we've come through in our lives is all for the glory of God. Like everything. And so how do we reach that glory? Where is that next step when we're in the middle of this? And it's really through service to the community. And you never know what people are going through. There's 8 billion people in the planet. Like, it the chances of somebody who is feeling the same thing that you are or gone through something very similar are just it's astronomical chances. Like, somebody is out there that you are going to help.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. There's always somebody that can resonate with our story, no matter what that is. And, for you, I feel like there wasn't a whole lot of fear in sharing it, but you kind of had a strategy in what you were doing and how you were sharing that. You mind telling us what that kind of looked like as you were sharing your feelings and what was going on in the moment?
Yeah, so, I was kind of living, a practical hell. It was very confusing. It was emotionally just tormenting, and it if you've been in a place similar to this, you know what I'm, like, describing. I was receiving all sorts of attacks from what seemed like random sources in my very small town. They were online, they were to my face, they were cars driving by, reports to my work. It was a very confusing and very sad time, and I reached out on social media because I realized that there were certain things that I was able to do to get through the day that I hadn't heard, being shared on social media, and I felt like if I could help others reframe those instances, then they could also alleviate some of the pressures that they were going through. So it was more a mode of survival for me, and it it just proved that when I became of service to the community and started sharing these things out that, like, the following just came. It was just natural, and a lot of people were being edified by these instances, and it was really how to reframe what I had been going through, and, I feel like the biblical principle on that one is that all things work for good for those who love the Lord, and I love the Lord. So I knew that there was a reason for this.
Mhm. Yeah. As you talk about reframing, can you give us a few examples of maybe what that looks like, or maybe some things that you had put out there that really resonated with people, just for an example that people would actually resonate with what you're saying?
Yeah. So one of the reframing things that I had put out there was that I noticed that when people would come at me with a certain attack on my personality or my being, that one, it was just completely not anywhere remotely to who I was. But I was like, where did that source come from? And so I would ask that there be healing on that person for that thing, because they were sourcing and projecting that anger from something that had happened in their life. And I knew that it had nothing to do with me because it wasn't anything remotely close to my existence. So, for instance, if they would say, like, your parents hate you, I knew immediately that those people had pain from their parents, and that is what we would be praying about for them.
Hmm. Wow. That's powerful because there's so many people that are afraid to share their story because maybe they don't know what to say, how to say it. But what I hear you saying is share it in a way that is a reframe to be healthy for yourself in order to be healthy for other people. And that's kind of what you're saying as the act of service for your community. Would you say that's right?
Yeah, and for them to know what is actually going on when these things happen to them, you know? So a lot of people when they're getting attacked by this, they weren't able to see, "Oh my gosh, the reason that that person is attacking me is because that's actually a thing in their life, and that's what they need help with," and how can we be of service to them? One of the things that actually happened in my live stream was a person came in to a live stream that I had and was saying really, really awful, terrible things that had nothing to do with my life or anything like that. And so, I asked my online friends, and I like to say friends, I don't like the word followers, right? Jesus had followers, not us. And so, so my online friends, I asked them, would you follow this person and see what is actually going on? And the person actually went live, and they found that the person was suffering with substance abuse and was talking about unaliving themselves. And so the people sat with them and prayed with them and, like, made sure that they got their name and where they were at and tried to make sure that they were safe through the evening, so that nothing happened to that person. Yeah, and so it helped everybody in the community, right? It helped the person who was, participating in the really negative and lashing out behavior, and then it also helped the community, serve their community, serve one another, right? This life is very temporary, and we're all going to meet in heaven, and what's that reunion gonna look like?
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true. As you grew your social media by service, how do you feel like it's different of growing with service by sharing your story and staying authentic to yourself rather than chasing visibility or virality and all of those types of things?
So you're gonna have a higher conversion rate, definitely. We've all seen, like, the, viral dancing videos, and yes, you can participate in that, but the chances of somebody unfollowing you later are greater because you're one of 10 million people that they've seen do that exact same dance. And there's no substance to it. But when you're serving your community, and you're authentic, they find you and they resonate with you and they're there in your lives and they're there for whatever you have going on, whether it's appearances or new products coming out. It's about it's about, like I said, that friendship, right? Your internet family. And they're way more receptive and supportive, and you're just building a healthier community. And I mean, I really feel like that's the purpose behind social media. Not just getting on there and shouting out, "Look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me." The that's a dime a dozen.
Yeah. Yeah. I got the privilege to be a part of an interview with Demi Tebow, this week, and one of the things that she had said, and I know other people have said it, but it's just fresh on my mind, she said, "Be the community you wish that you had." And, just as you're saying that, that fits perfectly to what you're saying. And as you talk about community and, really loving your community around you, how did you stay true to that without how did you stay in that mindset of keeping it healthy, keeping it focused, being authentic, sharing your story, and staying in that lane?
I don't know if I'm the best, like, most on brand person when it comes to that. I can't help but be me. And I think that probably plays to my advantage, because there's nothing to ever really shift. People know that they're getting the truth from me, even if it's just how I feel for the day.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, for sure. Well, when it comes to sharing your story and how that grew on social media, what did that look like? So you started how many years ago, and what was kinda going on in that time so maybe people can kinda resonate with what you went through?
Yeah, so it was a little over 3 years ago. I was just experiencing a lot of harassment, and at the time it was very, very confusing. I didn't know what was happening with that or why it was going on because when I had moved to the small community, I came with the attitude of service. I immediately, like, gave myself to serving the community, becoming a CASA volunteer and doing what I could to help it. It seemed like a very small community that could use helpers,
Mhm.
and I wanted to be that. Um, so for me to experience so much verbal harassment, physical attacks on my children's friends, online comments on my businesses and things like that was very, uh, eh, uh, I just didn't understand it. It came out of what seemed like the blue, but however, it was not out of the blue. These people are friends and relatives of my ex-husband who had defrauded the government and, tortured his family member until he had passed, and all of these attempts, I find out years later, were actually, ways to cover for his crimes. But when I was going through it, it was very, disorienting. It was, yeah, it was a very horrible time. It felt like living in a hell is what it felt like.
Mhm.
Nothing made sense. It was very, very dark. So when these things would happen, I would post out on social media how I was managing that because I knew that other people would be going through something in their lives that was even if it wasn't as horrible as being screamed obscenities at, like, in face to face and being afraid to go to the grocery store, even if it wasn't that horrible, it still was advice that could be applied to these attacks that seem to come from nowhere. Things like, how to be of service to people, how to uplift people, how to reframe and to understand that that person is lashing out because they don't have the Lord, because they are in pain. And it just started to resonate with people and just kind of, snowball from there on out was, how do I love what you said about that quote, "How do we be the community that we didn't have?" That's really what it was.
Yeah. How did you stay positive? Because I'm sure there was times to where you cried and broke down and all of that. Like, I know you're not hiding any of that. You haven't hid any of that. But no, there's still the reframe of things. But when you did have those struggles, how did you pick yourself up again?
I think it's important to know that I absolutely felt those emotions. It's not very much a case of I'm some shiny Christian who has the answers to everything and just can just feel better and like, take the high road on all of this. No. I felt those emotions. I spent days, weeks crying, praying. I was very fortunate to be a part of a church that had a group that of oh, I'm gonna get choked up of older women who took time out of their lives to pray with me, no matter what time of day it was. Sorry. There was one time I called and it was 2 AM, and she said, "No, I'm here for you," and she acted like it was nothing, and she just prayed with me.
Mm.
Um, so that was awesome, and I hope to be able to be that for somebody
Mhm.
one day, to be able to share that level of, love and commitment because she
Yeah.
cared. Um, and prior to this, I had actually not spent any time in fellowship with this woman at all. This was just her calling. She said, "No, I'm a prayer warrior. This is what I do. This is what I'm here for." Um, and it helped. But once I was able to feel those emotions and get over them, the reframing always came from everything works everything works for good for those who love the Lord, and I love the Lord. So I mean, at the end of the day, no matter how hard it feels, right, there's something in that that we can use for good.
Yeah. Yeah. I was doing a teaching today, and somebody else was sharing, emotional things and then what they had been struggling with, and they said that they were afraid. And somebody said, "You can't say, don't tell somebody that you're afraid. Don't share that. Don't speak that out." And I said, "No, I want to challenge that." And I said, "If you feel something, it's okay to acknowledge that you have it." And they were like, "Well, I don't know, because life and death are in the words." And I said, "Okay, so I have this piece of paper and I'm holding this piece of paper. If I say, 'No, I'm not holding this piece of paper,' I can never let it go." So if we have those emotions, if we have those feelings, it's okay to say, "I feel this way." And that's the way that we get to surrender those things up to other people, up to the Lord. And for you, it was being able to verbalize things and have that woman to be there for you, with you. in those times and have the other women and the fellowship aspects of things to be there. And, I'm sure that that was kind of your form of community in that time of like, wow, like I'm seen, I'm heard, I'm loved. And then do you feel like that was kind of like an inner, I don't want to say power, but an inner power inside of you to be like, okay, I've received this. Now I want to be able to release it to other people, and that helped with the community aspect that you want to build and are building?
I definitely look up to, the women and the people in the syndicate who helped me. Syndicate is online people who helped me through the time, and I feel, um, like, I hope that they have benefited, from my fellowship as much as I have from theirs. Um, I hope that that's a thing. We all just kind of wake up and do the best that we can with what the Lord has given us, and well, I mean, I assume that's what everybody does. I like to think that's what everybody does to the best of their ability. And it's definitely something to aspire to be, like the people that I have been fortunate to have been around. And I wanna live up to what they have done for me.
Mm, yeah, I love that. As you shared on social media and you shared kind of your journey and some of the reframes and the opportunities that you experienced, how did you know what to share and what not to share? How did you know how vulnerable to be? And I better leave that part out.
I think we should always go to the Lord with all of that. With all of that, right? If we have, any sort of apprehension about something, it's one, um, fear did not come from the Lord. So we should not have a spirit of fear. But two, it's being wise and knowing how to properly steward your platform
Mm,
and your resources. And so I definitely think that if you're struggling knowing what to put out there, one, you should lean into that fear. If it's not going to legally put you at harm, that's probably the thing that's going to set you apart from other creators. And that's probably the part that other people are leaving out that's leaving their audience on the table. There are people that they are not reaching
mhm,
because they're not willing to take that step because they're waiting for social acceptance in order to know when to share those parts of their story.
mhm.
But two, obviously, something I've learned very recently is get a lawyer. So that when you do speak the truth, you have means of, protecting yourself.
Yeah, understandable, understandable. That's good. That's good tips and advice for people that are wanting to get their story out. As you would instruct or help somebody begin to share their story, what aspects of their story should they start with? Should they start with places to where they're kind of already beginning to heal from and on the other side? Or would you suggest starting at the beginning and working your way through it?
That's a really good question. I don't know if I have a great answer for that because I'm always interested to see how unique people are, and quite possibly the formula that has worked for someone else, um, might not be the best formula for it. Just because that's what everyone is doing doesn't mean that that's what you have to do. And I feel like fortune favors the bold. Go to the Lord with it. See what's most important, what he's really put on you, and start there no matter how scared you are.
Hmm. Yeah, that's good. That's good. I want to do a little bit of a pivot here and talk a little bit about the strategy of algorithm and social media and those things. But before we dive into fully of that, what would be your advice of people understanding the power of strategy, algorithm, and now we've talked about service and sharing your story, understanding the difference of the two and when to lean into service, when to lean into understanding algorithm and strategy and what to actually do with it.
So I was actually thinking about this before our interview, from like when we had talked before, and I just felt like if you're going to spread the gospel, you have to leave your front door. And leaving the door is getting through the barrier that the algorithm is. And so at that point, it's how do you leave the front door to be able to tell your story? And that's through high quality content. So they work hand in hand. They work hand in hand. Can you hear him? Should I start from the beginning? Okay. All right. And so um I just feel like if you're going to tell the gospel to the rest of the world, then you need to be able to make it through the door, which is the algorithm.
Mm.
And so it's how do you get your content to get in front of the right people, in front of people in general, because there are certain rules that if you upload against those rules, you're tanking your views.
Mm.
Um, so it's just as important as leaving your front door to tell the gospel.
I love it. Love it, because Jesus tells us to go. Go and do these things. Go and do these things. And, now we get the opportunity of go means sit in front of our computer and be able to go virtually and do those things. Jesus didn't have that privilege. And so as we're talking about the different platforms and the different ways of being able to do things, what are some simple steps, simple ways that people could implement a strategy to, work with the algorithm and walk through that door?
Um, Absolutely. There are some very simple things that you just check off and just do a handful of these things, and you're immediately going to see a large increase in your content, into the viewership of your content. And those things are going to be high quality video. So crank up your resolution and your frame rate, high quality audio. And so get yourself a mic and good lighting. Another thing is that kind of goes alongside of this is be mindful of the platform that you're uploading to and where any of those comment sections or interaction buttons are going to be around it and frame accordingly.
So as people are recording, let's say on their phone, are you immediately thinking, I'm doing this one for Instagram, I'm doing this one for TikTok? Are you doing it individually like that, or are you still batch creating and then adjusting it accordingly?
A mixture of both. What I actually recommend is that you start with TikTok. And the reason being is that there is no penalty for redundant content. And so while you're learning and you're testing to see where your audience is, the times of days that you should post, the length that you should post, the editing that your audience prefers, while you're testing those things, you reuse the same assets on TikTok indefinitely. And you can gauge really well where your audience is. So if you're like, "Oh, I did a green screen background and it was all black, and I got 0 engagement on this, but I changed it to a bunch of flowers and I ended up getting more." I'm learning about what the algorithm and the people in my viewership are favoring. So once I do that and I have that formula figured out, then I can individually place on the other platforms. Um, so it's a mixture of both. I do know that people tend to repurpose content, which is a smart idea, especially if you're low on time and resources. Um, but sometimes it's not as beneficial if you don't understand the algorithm for each platform. A reel on Meta will not perform the same as a reel on YouTube, and that's just the way it is. So while you might be able to take the core assets, you do have to understand how to edit those and make sure that they're high enough quality for each platform.
Mhm. Gotcha. That's good. And it sounds like it could be a little time consuming. So I'm glad that you still said that, repurposing is okay, but understanding the platforms is important. When you talk about uh, how did you say, where you're putting the same content on there? What was that called again?
Also, like reposting the
Yeah.
same you re-edit it and then you can repost it out, right? We can take this exact same conversation, and we can pull different clips out of this. We can reorganize them. We can do different like editing tactics like zooms and zoom out and different transitions and different colors of text. We can see where our audience is by using those. And it's the same content, but we're seeing where the branding is, what's registering with our audience.
So what does the algorithm recognize as the same content? Is it the same vocal words? Is it the same video upload? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah. So Meta has an AI and they know the words, they know the visuals. Yeah.
Okay.
So you should not be resharing on Meta, and that's why really, uh, I recommend doing TikTok. I know some people feel a certain way about it, but, even in just that testing, area of it, once you have a really good branded, uh, tactic for creating this content. Like if you're like 2 seconds in, I do a pan zoom and then my titles and once you have that format laid out, you never have to use TikTok again if you're one of those people who don't want to. You don't have to. It's finding that formula and then where your audience is and then applying it. So,
Yeah.
um, it's a good tool.
Yeah. So is everybody's algorithm different based on kind of their niche that they do, or is it the audience that's there, or all the above?
Yeah. Yeah. And, yeah, exactly, and maybe your niche doesn't even exist yet today, so I do tell people to do some research and find people who are doing something similar to what you're doing, but you don't want to be them, because then it blurs into, just background noise. Um, at some point, I like to be really inspirational to people, and I like them to understand, like, their power. At some point, somebody did something first.
Mhm.
Yeah. Other people can copy that and they might have some slight successes and that's okay for a foundational understanding of it to be where you're comfortable at, but there is something very unique inside of you that will help you formulate your content, whether it's the things that you speak about or it's how you speak about them. Like I said, I'm very relatable. I'm just me kind of out here just talking, and that seems to work for my audience. However, I do follow creators who are much more well put together and, and that's great for who they are. So you have something inside of you that will help you craft whatever that is, and it might be the thing that carves out the new niche.
Mm, I love that. I love that. We may have some people that are like, "Hunter, I don't know even where to start on social media." What would be your advice? What are some simple tactics that they can do in order to make sure that they're at least starting on the right track?
High quality content. Something you're gonna hear me say over and over and over again. If you're not getting clear, well lit, created content, then you're really just it's just not gonna go anywhere. That the algorithm the little AI goes out there, reads it, and tanks you before you even get started. There is a hierarchy of creator versus consumer, and you really, if you are trying to make content, you need to be on the creator side of that. So you have to show up for those things. And they are very simple things to meet. Lighting, mic, refresh rate. Like you can do this from your phone. Absolutely. It's not where you're gonna wanna stay for forever, but it does help you get out there.
Yeah, that's good. And I know you had said before about being okay with uploading 4K video, like, that's okay. Why does that matter?
So, a part of that, like, separating of content versus consumer, or creator versus consumer, is that they have an AI that reads this. And if you're not meeting those quality standards when it gets uploaded, then you're immediately sorted into the the consumer side of it. And so it's literally just it's just a switch. You need to flip the switch. You gotta turn the light on, if that's where you're wanting to go with this. It's that simple. You have to. And know that we are not streaming 4K on our phones as we're, like, scrolling across and watching it, but you are going to get the higher quality photo.
Mm, I love that. I love that. So good, so practical that, anybody can be able to do it. So I know people are gonna have more questions. They're gonna wanna connect with you. How can they do that? How can they follow you and keep in touch with you?
My social media is Voxy, V is in Victor, OXYDITCH, on all of the social medias, Voxy Ditch, and indiehub.pro is my website.
Awesome. And we'll have all that inside the descriptions and the bios down below. You guys can easily click on that. Hunter, this has been fun. It's been good. I've learned a number of things. And I know that there's going to be people out there like, okay, can you just give me one thing, maybe two, that you can sneak in there that says, hey, just start with this so that you can go forward and take that first step of faith, getting out there and sharing your story.
Yes, I think it's incredibly important to start with service to your community. When you're coming from that core, it resonates with people. It grows an organic fan base that is going to be with you. It's so important that you start with service and that you understand that that is what your platform is for. You cannot possibly ever give enough to other people. And then two, it's always going to be high quality content. You are going to be gatekeeping your own specialness if you're not at least doing those few things to make the algorithm happy.
Love it. Love it. So simple. And yet it still takes a step of each of us making sure that we're doing something in order to get it out there. So just remember, listeners, that you guys, the algorithm isn't the one that's deciding everything. We have an authenticity to be able to release. We have a stewardship of what that gets to look like, and we get to show up and serve our community the way that we want it to be served, the way that we want to be served, and to be able to help other people. So thank you, Hunter, for joining us, for sharing your story, for giving us your wisdom and your knowledge through all these things, and really just opening up about what it looks like to understand the algorithm, but also how to serve everybody well. So for all you listening and all you viewers out there, today, school is dismissed, but your influence never takes a day off. So stay bold, stay focused, and go and leave your legacy. Bye.